it right now on your screen. Brandon's team is actually going to be Say Titan, Abomasnow, Taurus, it'll be that water Paldea form, Murkrow, Gothitelle, Ceruledge, versus Hayley's team, which is going to have Tyranitar, Grimmsnow, Gastrodon, Houndstone, Lycanroc, and Sylveon.
Yeah, I really like the combination on Brandon's side of Titan and Abomasnow. I think it was Atmosphere VGC built a team really similar that featured this kind of snow mode. We don't have hail anymore. It's so this snow. And the thing I love about snow is it works very similarly to the way sand does, where if you are that ice-type Pokemon, you're going to get a boost to your defense as opposed to the special defense that sand gives those rock-type Pokemon. So it's nice that you kind of have that additional effect. You don't get the residual chip damage anymore, but hey, who needs that when you can get your defense boost up as well? And Slush Rush on the Titan as well gives it that double speed, so it's going to be extra speedy and just can often give that edge on the opponent's side. Particularly when we were talking earlier about the amount of dragons that are running around, the amount of flying type Pokemon that are running around. Ice type offensive pressure has really become quite dominant very early on.
It's kind of like fun too, because the wild thing to me is that there's been very little weather teams that I've seen, because it really feels like when a meta starts like getting developed, you'll see a lot of like weather heavy things, and now all of a sudden it feels like I guess I want to say hail so badly, but it's like snow now is going to be the bigger one, but no weather here, and it's going to be Grimmsnow and Sylveon versus that Gothitelle and that Paldean Tauros. It is going to be that water variant.
Yeah, the water variant really popular. Again, it can deal so much damage with things like close combat. Raging Bull as well can deal significant chunks, and I think the interesting thing as well is you get that Intimidate, and Intimidate's been kind of countered a little bit in the meta so far. Things like the Clear Amulet, you know, not allowing those drops has kind of made it a little bit less effective, and obviously in this matchup here, the Sylveon's not going to care about that at all. It's going to be in a great position to go for some damage, and this is where now if you're Hayley, you can go for some support with that Grimmsnarl, setting up some screens potentially. Yeah,
and Sylveon actually going to protect this turn, so Fake Out from Gothitelle, the move I learned this generation, I believe, is going to go into that Protect. Reflect going to be set up, so, and the physical attacks from that Tauros is going to be just a little bit weaker now as it goes for that Raging Bull. It's actually going to go into that screens, breaks the screens as well. It is one of those like moves that works like Brick Break.
Yeah.
Is going to do a massive amount of damage to that Grimmsnarl, and unfortunately Hayley is going to be unable to switch out because that Gothitelle Shadow Tag is locking in these Pokemon.
Exactly, they are stuck in here, and this allows that Tauros with Raging Bull, like you said, breaks those screens to just keep threatening this opposing Grimmsnarl. You know, another one of those is going to be able to take the Grimmsnarl out. The Life Orb damage really helping out Tauros in this situation. Yes, Sylveon looks to be in a decent position where it can deal some good damage to something like that Tauros, but I think it's a wise Protect then on Brandon's side, and Gothitelle we know can get up to so many tricks. Things like Trick Room, reversing those speeds. It can go for Helping Hand to boost up Brandon's Tauros a little later on, or in this turn just going for some psychic damage, chipping away a little bit at that Sylveon.
Yeah, actually the Grimmsnarl going for another Reflect after it had seen Raging Bull, and that Sylveon going to go for the Hyper Voice. Not going to hit that Tauros to Protect, but is going to land some damage to that Gothitelle. That Throat Spray now is going to activate, boosting that special attack of that Sylveon by one stage. So another Reflect up from here after we've seen the Raging Bull already was an interesting choice.
Yeah, I mean, Throat Spray, again, a really popular item on that Sylveon. Just being able to capitalize on the fact here that Tauros did go for that Protect. Gothitelle's not going to deal too much with Psychic. Hey, I can get my special attack boosted up, so now I really am a threatening presence on the field. Yes, if you're Hayley, you can't switch out, but then the Hyper Voice is something that Tauros does still have to contend with a little bit.
So yeah, and I think now you're like in an interesting position here with Brandon, because we'd seen that he has his weather mode in the back, but you're not really in a really perfect spot to ever kind of switch out. But Gothitelle gonna clap those hands together and give a little bit of help to that Tauros. That Tauros we'd seen had been able to use is gonna go for that Raging Bull one more time here. Is gonna break the screens. Is enough to pick up the knockout here on that Sylveon, and breaks that Reflect for the second time in this game. That boost to Sylveon is no longer gonna matter here, as it is gonna get knocked out. It's gonna lose some HP thanks to that. Thanks to that Life Orb residual damage, but Spirit Break from Grimm's not going to connect you to Tauros. Knocks down the special attack, which is super negligent for it, but that Tauros is still here, is still rampaging on, and is just a huge threat right now to Hayley's side.
It definitely is, and it's quite speedy as well. You have to credit Brandon's targeting here, you know, going down into that opposing Sylveon. We have got the Gastrodon, and I have to credit Hayley for picking the correct Gastrodon. We've got the green and blue variant on the field right now. But again, Tauros just being able to deal with that Helping Hand, the Life Orb boost, everything down into that opposing Sylveon, stopping them from going for some big damage with that Throat Spray boosted Hyper Voice. You know that you might have to take the Spirit Break from the Grimmsnarl, but you're going to be able to survive that Spirit Break is not offensively damaging, and the special attack drop you don't care about if you're a Tauros. Gastrodon now in this interesting situation, because Gastrodon can be really disruptive. On the set that we've got here on Hayley's side, you know, you've got things like Earth Power, Muddy Water, and Icy Wind to start controlling a little bit of that speed control as well.
Yeah, it is like one of those that now all of a sudden it becomes a threat to Brandon's side, because now you can't just keep raging bull as you were before. We are going to see that Terrasilize from Brandon's side is going to be the fighting type Terrasilizing. That is a scary bull to have to contend with. It is already a heavy hitter, is going to be able to do some extra damage because of that. With a helping hand boost as well and the life orb, this is just going to be so much damage here. We see a close combat here from that.
I hope it's ready.
Oh gosh, this is going to hurt into that Gastron, which is not able to take it. Unfortunately, there's just so many boosts here into that Tauros. That special defense drop and that defense drop though for that close combat. However, that Gastron is going to go down on this turn. Not going to be able to redirect any water type moves. And now Grimmsnarl is going to go for the foul play. Goes into the Gothitelle, actually does super fair damage, but it does use your attack stat against you. And Gothitelle not known exactly for being the heaviest attacker out there.
You know, I can't even say it was the little slug that tried, because it really didn't get to do anything in that match. Fantastic play by Brandon, just getting rid of it straight away, getting that Terrestrialize boost up as well, boosting up the fighting type move by another 50%, helping hand, life orb, your type, everything's just amazing here on this Tauros. You now, of course, have on the opposing side to deal with this Tyranitar. And we know, again, Tyranitar hates taking any type of fighting type moves, and Tauros has just been running rampant with something like the close combat here. It could be the opportunity. I don't believe Hayley has Terrestrialized yet, so Hayley does still have that utility. Maybe on something like the Tyranitar, you could turn into that flying Terra type that she's got on here, and that's just a really nice way to kind of combat those fighting type moves.
Yeah, and I think now so that's exactly what we're going to see, as Hayley's Tyranitar is going for that Terrasilize, is going to be floating now with those balloons in the air, is going to be not having to worry as much about those fighting type moves anymore, thanks to that flying type it is now going to take. And it's also in Sandstorm, but Gothitelle just cheering on its partner here with another helping hand. That Tauros, once again, absolutely terrifying of a Pokemon, is going to go for that Raging Bull, goes into that Tyranitar, still does significant amounts of damage, is actually probably doing more damage to itself right now, but Terra Blast from this Tyranitar, now a flying type Terra Blast, gonna finally be able to knock out this Tauros that has been, again, just been a bull in a china shop essentially at this point.
It certainly has, and I think it's wise that it takes a little bit of rest here from Brandon. You now get the utility to switch up your ball position as well to deal with this Tyranitar a little bit better on. Foul play is going to connect and pick up the KO on that Gothitelle as well, so now Brandon, in a quick turn of events, is going to be down to the last two remaining Pokemon on their side of the field.
Yeah, and that Grimmsnarl is going to take a little bit of damage from that Sandstorm, and so is actually Tyranitar, because it no longer has that type of protector from it as well. We do see that for all the talk about weather was, I'm saying, like, I haven't been seeing them as much, all of a sudden it becomes a sandstorm into snow, so we are going to have a little bit of a weather change, surprisingly. So that snow warning from Abomasnow, instead of hail, which no longer exists now in this game, is going to be snow. So again, no residual damage, so everyone's sitting here pretty, but you do have to worry about that extra boost to those defenses.
Yeah, and honestly, on Brandon's side, this was the perfect time to bring this weather mode in. Titan's going to be able to go for Ice Spinner, connect down into the flying type that doesn't want to take any ice type moves whatsoever, and it's going to be able to pick up the KO against it. And there's really not a lot that Grimmsnarl can do in this position. We've seen it try to go for those screens to no avail. Yes, it's got Foul Play. Yes, it's got Spirit Breaks and defensive capability, but you can only target one Pokemon, and both your Titan and the opposing Abomasnow have the capability to deal with this Grimmsnarl. Blizzard, obviously 100% effective in terms of accuracy when the snow is in the sky, so it's going to be able to take game one for Brandon.
Yeah, and that was actually, I think, a really rough opening for Hayley. You know, you get locked in because of Gothitelle's Shadow Tag, and then you have to contend with a Pokemon that has a move now that is able to break those screens. I know when the game would first come out and people were figuring out what moves Pokemon were getting, Grimmsnarl seemed like such a huge threat, right? You have Reflect, you have Light Screen, you're able to just set up all of
and
a
you
sudden.
Get Parting Shot now as well.
Oh my gosh, I didn't want to think about that, but but it feels like such an interesting turn of events where all of a sudden Grimmsnarl was such a huge threat last generation, and now in this generation people assumed it was going to be the same threat, and then now you have something like Tauros, which I don't think I would ever been like, yeah, Tauros is a really competitive Pokemon, but it has a move that's able to deal with stuff like that, and it's still a pretty heavy attacker, and it's fast. I think a lot of people kind of forget that Tauros is a fast Pokemon.
Yeah, and you could see it demonstrated so perfectly in that game one as well. And I think the interesting thing, I'm glad you commented on Grimmsnarl, is because where it is such a hyper-offensive meta at the moment, things like Light Screen and Reflect you think would be so beneficial. They could be the thing that you need for those damage calcs to roll in your favor to have that survivability on the field, but actually the offensive pressure is so strong that in a lot of cases you can easily just pick up 2-hit KOs here, and things like that just are going to be able to sway the momentum into your side. So where you have a Pokemon like Grimmsnarl, I think unless you are doing things like going for those parting shots, where again we've got so many inner focus Pokemon that can deal with Intimidate, we then also have things like the Amulet, the Clear Amulet, that's going to stop those drops. It can just get really, really difficult to be able to deal deal with these opposing Pokemon. So because a lot of the time you'd see Grimmsnarl switch out, maybe bring in an Intimidate user. There's just no point. So kind of Grimmsnarl has a different role, and I think it is still trying to find it out a little bit in the meta.
I'm sure somebody is going to crack open like that code for it, but I think the other thing too is that we were talking about how all of a sudden dark types and dragon types have sort of like their spot in the sun again, or I guess in this case like the sand or like the snow, but I think fighting types as well. I mean, specifically just like Tauros lately has just sort of been like, oh, like we saw how devastating it could be with like that helping hand, that life orb, and then that Terra typing. And I think this meta speaks to a lot about how Pokemon that you haven't really been expecting, or like types that like were sort of like lost in the shadows before, are all of a sudden like able to just come back in like a really sort of startling fashion for a lot of people.
Well, no, you're right. And the fighting type I think has been really dominant because obviously you've got so many dark types running around, but you also have normal types running around, particularly Pokemon like Arcanine and Dragonite that like to go for that Terra normal in order to utilize something like extreme speed, then leave themselves really vulnerable to something like a close combat. So certainly having the fighting type, you can see why it is emerging in dominance, and things like Psychic aren't so strong because of the dark type presence. So as a fighting type, you're sitting a little bit more comfortable. Of course, again, a lot of them do tend to be on the physical side, so depending on, you know, defensive capabilities on the opposing side, particularly when you've got something like Dondozo on the field that wants to get its boost, then it is a little bit harder to cut through those big defensive capabilities, but you can again see why it's coming into dominance. And I absolutely have to just credit again the image there coming up from Hayley.
Yeah, the boss
it's so cute. It's taking a little nap. How adorable. Well, we've got to wake up for game 2. I'm sure you're excited by this lead.
I love this because if anybody's unaware, I love dogs. So seeing Houndstone, I'm so excited about this. Houndstone and Gastrodon versus the say Titan and the Gothitelle, so a little bit of a change here from Brandon as well, but I think correctly identifying that, hey, Gothitelle being able to sort of lock stuff in, it won't be able to lock in the Houndstone because it is a ghost type, and so like able to switch out from that shadow tag. But Gastrodon sort of puts kind of like a pin in against that Tauros, which actually is in the back right now for Brandon.
Yeah, and of course as well, Houndstone having capability to use things like Crunch is going to be able to deal well with that Gothitelle. That I think if you're Hayley coming into this game too, you need to deal with it straight away. You need the flexibility to switch Pokemon in and out. So again, Houndstone can still switch out with its ghost typing, but Gastrodon's going to be in a different situation. First of all, it has to take this fake out. It's not going to be doing anything, as Houndstone can retaliate with that Crunch. It is going to be a 2-hit KO.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's nice just because like that fake out won't hit into that Houndstone. Houndstone does take a lot of damage from the Ice Spinner here. Gastrodon flinching obviously because of that fake out. Is going to be able to recover that HP loss thanks to its leftovers. One of the more favorite items for Gastrodon, but Houndstone taking a lot of damage does have to realize that Gothitelle is going to be a 2-hit knockout. So now you have to play the game of how much of a threat is the say Titan now versus the Gothitelle? Yeah,
and of course the Titan as well can go for the Ice Spinner and deal with the opposing Houndstone as well. So Gothitelle, you know, does have that kind of comfort there a little bit, possibly if Gothitelle wants to go for some damage. Happy if you're Brandon in the situation to maybe lose the Gothitelle potentially, bring something in from the back. Maybe there's the Abomasnow in the back, and then that can help out the Titan side by side on the field. But Gothitelle's actually going to go for the Terrestrialization hit into the Dark type. I mean, this is a nice way to combat defensively this Houndstone.
Yeah, and I think this is something that a lot of people, you know, if you've seen Gothitelle on the ladder, it is a very common sort of Terra type that you're going to use. That Crunch is now officially just a lot more than a 2-hit knockout. That HP bar barely moving here as Ice Spinner is going to be picking up that knockout on Houndstone. I don't actually think that critical hit mattered this time around. We did see it do a little bit more than half last turn. Here, that Gothitelle is going to be able to go for that Psychic into that Gastrodon. It's going to be able to hopefully move this turn here as that Gastrodon is going for the Muddy Water. Oh no! Oh, the Say Titan avoiding the attack and actually...
And the Gothitelle!
Oh no, I'm getting flashbacks to Tapu Fini Muddy Water, and just that move is great to try to like knock things out. But hey, the accuracy misses should be on the opposing Pokemon. You shouldn't be the one missing it. Come on, Gastrodon.
Oh, come on, Gastrodon. I know you can do it. You won the World Championships last year. Come on, you can do this.
Maybe if it was the pink Gastrodon. I'm serious.
No, Georgina, no. Let's not even open up that debate. But I mean, this is the thing that's happening today. It's, you know, 1st of January, New Year's Day, and things like these spread moves that have this low accuracy are just running rampant at the minute. They're just not able to get the KOs or the connections that they need. Lycanroc going to join the field on Hayley's side. Again, a Pokemon I really like to see when paired up with something like that Tyranitar. Sandrush does give it a nice speed boost, and the fact that Gothitelle still on the field means that Hayley doesn't have the utility to be able to bring in something like the Tyranitar from the back to support it, and Gastrodon doesn't seem to be pulling its weight right now.
Yeah, what's so fascinating too though is that Lycanroc, so Hayley's Lycanroc doesn't actually have it, but Lycanroc and Titan are two of the Pokemon that I know for sure have moves that can remove terrain, in a format right now where like terrain isn't like that big of a thing. It's just so interesting to me that like out of all the Pokemon, the 2 of them are on the field right now. But Gothitelle saying, hey, I'm gonna peace out. So bringing the Shadow Tag with it, so Hayley's gonna be able to switch out next turn if she would like to. But Abomasnow is bringing in that snow. Is just gonna try to ice out Hayley from getting a match off of this turn, as Ice Spinner is gonna be going into that Lycanroc. That Lycanroc is able to actually take that damage here. Lycanroc going for the Rock Slide, is gonna catch that Abomasnow in, does super effective damage, doesn't have to worry about the flinches here because it's moving afterwards. And Gastrodon finally able to connect, might be able to, no accuracy drops here, but is going to get a little bit of HP back from that leftovers.
Yeah, and I like the switch from Brandon here, bringing in the Snow Warning on the Abomasnow is being able to give the Titan that speed boost as well. It's going to be able to deal some good damage to something like the Lycanroc again, can easily pick up another KO against it, or you can start chipping away at the Gastrodon. But that said, I really don't see what the Gastrodon can do too much in this situation. It's not carrying anything like Yawn. It's got, Muddy Water that we've seen. Earth Power is not going to deal too much to these Ice-type Pokemon, particularly not the Abomasnow with that Grass typing as well. So I think it's wise from Brandon to go for the switch here and just try and deal with... I was thinking maybe Gothitelle could come back in and try and pin the Gastrodon down again, but Tauros throwing the Intimidate down against Pokemon that have that more physical attributes like the Lycanroc, I think is really nice here. And I have to credit Hayley being like, you know what, Gastrodon, you're really not working for me right now. You need to actually take a rest, come back, focus with some accuracy in check, and bring in that Tyranitar in. Not only does it save Gastrodon a little bit, but it brings the sand onto the field. Lycanroc's now going to be the fastest thing, can go for that super speedy Rock Slide.
Is gonna be able to connect with the Saiyan Titan. The Saiyan Titan
gets a crit.
Might actually.
It does get the flinch.
So that is another Rock Slide on that side that is flinching here. I love this because all of a sudden now, like 2 of the weathers that people like, maybe not
forget about maybe.
Snow and sand right now are just like boosting that speed. So because of the dynamic speed changes, that Lycanroc is immediately faster now than that Saiyan Titan. So Lycanroc able to get that. That Intimidate though is saving that Saiyan Titan's like behind right now. That 1 HP left. Lycanroc not able to get that extra bit of damage thanks to the fact that that Intimidate came in on that same turn.
Yes, and of course Brandon has the utility to switch Abomasnow back in to bring the snow back in, overwrite that sand. That's going to reduce the speed again of that Lycanroc back to neutral. It's not going to get the boost that it gets from Sand Rush here, and that would then allow the Titan to be speedy as well and try and pick up a KO against it. Of course, Lycanroc can potentially have some... Still can deal some decent damage in places, but as long as your Titan's able to deal with it, then it is gone. Gastrodon is going to come back into the fray, however.
Yeah, I think you're kind of seeing... Oh, no, Aqua Jet. The Aqua Jet going into the Storm Drain here. So Hayley just saying, hey, Lycanroc's in a little bit of trouble, so I'm going to make sure that I can protect it with this. Tyranitar is going to get knocked out, though, thanks to a superpower from that Tyranitar. He's going to be unable to move on this turn. But Gastrodon was just like, hey, I'm going to tag out. I'm going to take this Aqua Jet, and we're going to boost this up. Tauros is going to get hit by that Sandstorm. I actually think the Saiyan Titan is as well, so it is going to get knocked out this turn, leaving Gastrodon sort of like free to like switch in and just be like, I'm going to get a boost for my special attack, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh, look how happy Gastrodon is right now. It's like, yeah, my moves aren't accurate, but my ability's still great. Like, there's nothing you can do to track that Storm Drain. I'm going to draw them all in. Now, if you're Brandon, you have an interesting situation. You can bring that Gothitelle back in, go for something like we saw in Game 1, where Gothitelle combined with this Tauros were able to go for destructive damage with something like the Helping Hand, Raging Bull combination. But the key thing is that Lycanroc's going to be super speedy as well. With the sand still up in the sky, it's going to be able to get that speed boost, and that's something Tauros is going to have to deal with a little bit. Of course, if you're Brandon, you can still make a switch with that Gothitelle, but you also now have the Fake Out on the field.
Yeah, actually that's really interesting because the Abomasnow is still there, so if you know that your Tauros could be faster, you have to be careful because now all of a sudden your water type moves can't do anything to this Lycanroc. But if you're still faster, if you switch out into the Abomasnow, like sure you're using the Fake Out pressure, but then you're guaranteeing that Lycanroc can't like actually like move faster than you. Lycanroc is going to be taking that Fake Out here. It's close combat is going to pick up the knockout here on that Lycanroc. So sort of a moot point here as Lycanroc goes down. Just to like add a cherry on top here for Brandon, it is going to be a critical hit into that Lycanroc spot. Gastrodon though is going to have like one heck of a time trying to go up against 3 Pokemon in this moment. Tauros is going to lose some of the HP thanks to that Life Orb. Gastrodon going for the Muddy Water. Oh no!
Misses
Gothitelle, but manages to hit the Tauros, who did give it that boost earlier. So even with not effective damage, that +1 thanks to that Storm Drain is just going to turn it around back on that Tauros.
Yeah, the cards are stacked against the Gastrodon, however, because the Abomasnow is able to come back in. Abomasnow carrying something like Energy Ball, 4 times super effective against little Gastrodon, is just going to be able to pick up the KO against it.
I still think if Hayley hasn't terrestrialized this turn, if she terrestrializes that Gastrodon right now, she could get rid of that 4 times weakness with it, right?
That's so true.
We have have like we see that Hayley's Gastrodon does have a grass terrestrialize, so it could just go for that right now and not have to worry about taking like extreme like super effective damage.
Yeah, at the same time though, I think we saw Brandon lock into that. You with open team sheets, you'll be aware of that the grass type terrestrialization could come, so you could go for that Blizzard. It's going to be super effective and particularly 100% accurate with the snow, which I think is just adding insult to injury to this poor Gastrodon that's missed things left, right and center. And even if it didn't terrestrialize, Blizzard is still going to hit really hard. You've got the ground typing on that opposing Gastrodon as well. It's not like it's going to be super duper resisted or anything.
So it's just up. It's time to see if this Gastrodon's able to hold on to anything. I think it's doing its best, but just sort of unable to. It's got
and helping hand.
Yeah, doing the like just clapping stuff, like clapping its hands there, congratulating its teammate as Bombasnow goes for that Blizzard, is going to pick up that knockout on Gastrodon and give this set to Brandon 2-0 against Hayley. I mean, honestly, what a way to champion for Weather Wars though, right? Like to see how good Snow could be, because I think when I first played the game and I was like, what the heck is this Snow? Where's Hail? Like,
I was really confused. I thought it was completely new, like, you know, we'd still see Hail later on, yeah. But it wasn't to be.
I think it just says to a lot, because it's so rare to see a Slush Rush team work very well, right? I think the last time I saw anybody try to really make it work was with Alola Sandslash, and the less said
with
about
Alola
that,
Ninetales next to it as well.
Oh my gosh,
super cute,
so fun. But I think being able to see like sort of like the Gothitelle Shadow Tag, which is not a strange sort of like concept for a lot of people, and the fact that it can terrestrialize into Dark to just sort of like get rid of its weaknesses, like so many of its weaknesses, right? But to have sort of like the ability to like keep your opponent from pivoting and to keep them from preventing like switching the weather, I think it's just such a good sort of like showcase of why this new weather, even if it's not Hail, is still really good.
Yeah, and it was not only a good showcase of weather, but also of that Tauros that was great to see. Paldean water form, I think, is really unique, and you kind of said at the beginning people are kind of counting it out a little bit, and I think they need to kind of wake up and see actually it's really viable, particularly when it is utilized so well in an open team sheet format. And I really want to credit that for Brandon. I felt like Brandon was able to look at Hayley's team sheet and really identify where the strengths and weaknesses were, the Pokemon that needed to be KO'd, the threats that were against his team, and using that Tauros, particularly in game one, to just get KO, be like, you know, I didn't need to worry about Grimmsnarl, it can't do too much to me, set up screens all you want, I've got Raging Bull, and I think being able to utilize all that information was what made him so dominant in this set.
Yeah, and it was actually just sort of exciting to see. I appreciate when like good weather stuff happens.
Yeah.
But that'll be the end of round 2 for right now. We are again just waiting on a couple of matches to finish up. I'm gonna go take a water break because much like that Gastrodon, I also need to like hydrate.
Yeah,
I
me
guess.
too.
So thank you guys for joining us for round 2. We'll see you in a little bit for round 3. And then you can tell us if you think all Pokemon are dogs, which they are. Even Masquerada. But we'll see you guys
on Halloween.